Hello everyone and welcome to Motorcast for our dedicated World Rallycross podcast. We are here to look at Rallycross round from Portugal, the second round of the 2017 season, and it was Matthias Ekstrom again winning the event, very closely fought, great weekend, a stark contrast to 2016's Portugal event, I think it's fair to say, particularly with the weather. But yeah, Jake Callahan, what do you think of the second round of this season?
Business as useful for Rallycross. It's just like typical chaos, madness, cars going sideways, several accidents, it's basically Catalonia, more of it. That makes sense, I think.
Yes, it's definitely, I think, a good track, it's fair to say, and the Joker. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of these tracks do depend on if the Joker's good, and I think it's fair to say that this one was pretty good.
It reminds me of Hell, the Norwegian track, that first corner Joker lap, which I quite like. I feel like the problem maybe is that there's not as many overtaking points as you'd like, but it's a good driver's track. I think when it allows the drivers to push, and that you get close racing anyway.
What do you think about in terms of obviously the heats and the kind of ordering of the cars? Do you think it kind of makes the kind of inside line a bit kind of overpowered in that respect?
Maybe.
The heats, what is it, kind of randomly drawn, particularly I think for Q1.
Q1's random.
But then obviously afterwards, I guess it kind of depends on your pace. But I think a few drivers were kind of screwed out a bit, where they were kind of always on the outside. And I guess obviously you go into the Joker, but even so, the likelihood you've got someone else on the inside that's got a bit of advantage.
I don't know, you'd have to look at that. I don't think it makes that much of a difference. But I think for the semi-finals, yes. In the finals, yes. But for the actual timed heats, I don't think so.
I guess to me, it is the same for everyone, isn't it? So, you might get a bit screwed out one time, but then someone else is probably going to get it the next time.
I know, generally the fastest thing across the weekend seems to be getting that Joker done on lap 1. So, I don't know. It is a weird track, but I like it for it.
Let's talk about the heats then. Petter Solberg would top this heat, and really it probably should have been Kristoffersson, but was top of it. But unfortunately, what can you say about his Q3 really, and kind of Q4 as well? A contrast, I think, is the right word between his kind of Saturday and this Sunday in terms of his heats.
I think it was the first time Kristoffersson had got like a perfect day one, and I think there's a brilliant quote on the world feed. It was like, oh, he had a brilliant day one, he's just waiting for something to go wrong, and it went wrong in the most spectacular fashion imaginable by missing a Joker. I don't know how
not the
you
first
miss a
driver
Joker.
as well.
Not the first driver. Andreas Backer, the guy that I tipped last time to win and put a voodoo curse on him, missed it in day one, and you're thinking, okay, the drivers have seen that, they're not going to miss it on day 2. Surely not. And Kristoffersson was like, here, hold my beer, I'm going to make something even more stupid.
But yeah, in terms of those that went out, we've got quite a few down there, quite a few kind of debutants for this season, making their first 2017 appearance. Good to see, I think. 22 cars as well. Really nice grid at the moment.
It was a really big grid for Rallycross, and that's what I like to see. I think ultimately more supercars come in, even if they're guessed and even if they're not the highest quality of drivers, it's still nice to have more drivers in the field. I mean, let's face it, even if you look towards the bottom, there's still people that are, driving 600 horsepower all-wheel drive monsters. And the fact that people will be willing to do that it's good for the series. I mean, you look at other series which have incredibly difficult to drive cars, and you have maybe like 10 people show up. So I think it does show Rallycross is in very good health.
Let's talk about two of the kind of disappointments, I think, of the heats. Kevin Eriksson and Timo Scheider, especially after that Barcelona weekend, not what he would have wanted.
I believe it's the first time Timo has been in a 2017 spec car, which makes Barcelona even more incredible that he did it in last year's machine. Timo have upgraded to a new spec car, and I think it's not quite there yet. So it's definitely a disappointment. He's not done too badly for himself in these overall standings, I think. Yeah, I think he's only about 5th or 6th. So he's not done too badly for somebody who's doing his first full-time season. But, yeah, it's definitely a disappointment. And Kevin Eriksson... it's difficult to single him out as a bad weekend, because it's about... I still think any one of that top 16 can make the top 12. Like, that's how competitive the field is. There's always going to be 4 big names going out this year. But Kevin Eriksson seems to be the guy that's just constantly nearly there, and isn't.
And Gronholm had a pretty strong weekend as well. I mean, yeah. I think he's got a couple of semi-final appearances, but he came pretty close this time, but just missed out.
Yeah, you weren't joking with just missed out. He missed out by a point to Tuomas Heikkinen, and was a point ahead of Kevin Eriksson. I think... I'll try to get between Backerud in 10th and Scheider in 15th. It's 5 qualifying points. That's how close it is for that top 12 spot. And it just sums up how competitive it is. Like, it could easily have been somebody like Ken Block, and I think many people expected after day 1 it was going to be Andreas Backerud going out, but I don't know how he managed it. He somehow ended up in 10th. Like, do you have any explanation for it? Having literally the worst day 1 most of us have seen, and then to fight back and bring it into 10th. Give that man a beer.
Well, he's very talented, isn't he? Obviously, and that focus obviously goes really well. I mean, he won Q4, and obviously the kind of points gap you get from winning a qualifying heat, it is pretty big, and that's what you have to do if you want to get back. Exactly. We've seen this before with other drivers kind of having poor day 1s, having poor Saturdays, and not being able to come back and get through to the semis, just because the point deficit is too much. And it wasn't like this, we only had, say, 18 cars, and it was a pretty low quality grid, because it wasn't. Like you said, we're always going to have kind of 4 or 5 big names going out every week. So, yeah, great job from Bakker. And, great job to do the recovery, but then... Fortunately, his bad weekend kind of came back, his bad luck came back, and unfortunately damaged his car beyond the point of return in the second semi-final, and that was the end of the road for him after contact with Baumanis.
So it's definitely made me think not to actually bother to pick a winner this week, because whoever I do is going to have a horrendous weekend at Hockenheim. But no, I think he could have made a final. Had he not had contact, I think he could have been pushing Timmy Hansen for that 3rd place. But, alas, it was not to be. I think
that would have been quite the win, wouldn't it? Or quite the podium appearance,
yeah,
if he'd got there.
To be fair, he was going for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. Vacker is naturally quite an aggressive driver and throws a car about. I've never seen somebody take less concern for their car until the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that did help him in Q4, and it has done in the past, but I think that maybe did hamper him a little bit in the semi-final, maybe a bit of frustration kicking in. But obviously, it hasn't worked out this time, but it could easily work out the next time, so I think he's definitely got a good attitude and some very good racecraft.
And even so, like, if you make the semi-final, you're still getting points. Like, you have to get points to win a championship.
Yes, he's salvaged, I think, a bad weekend there, isn't he?
Yeah,
and really, it wasn't,
weekend,
you can't really blame it on either of them, I don't think, the crash.
No, it's just one of those things. Rallycross is a contact sport, whether we like it or not. So it's just that kind of things happen, as demonstrated by some of the Super 1600 drivers, to be honest. But
that was quite the race.
That was quite the accident.
Yes, I am glad now I tuned in. Unfortunately, Motorsport TV decided to start the race from lap 4 with their coverage cutting to an ad break.
Yeah,
right
I
before.
Heard about that. Like,
yes, that was woeful.
Did they just get the intern to do the TV scheduling?
I think they put it on automatic, to be honest. They guessed what times the races would be on, and just set the adverts to go then. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's why I should be watching on YouTube, to be honest, because
just saying Ford's World Feed.
Yes,
that's where it's at.
Yes. Let's talk about Ford Fiestas, and 2 of the starred cars getting into the semi-finals. Baumanis and Timothy Arnoff, showing good pace, I think. both of them were kind of up there respectively, and then kind of both of them had a bit of bad luck, had a bit of kind of a couple of off heats, and then Tim Zianis, for example, I believe was on the outside for his semi-final and kind of was a bit over-ambitious, made a mistake going into the Joker. But yeah, I think a solid weekend for both of them. I think it's fair to say.
I think, obviously, we've discussed Baumanis of the issue with Baccarat in his semi-final, which is a shame because Baumanis had a phenomenal weekend. I think he was the 6th fastest qualifier. Above both Hansen brothers, Timosyanov, Baccarat, Block, and Heikkinen.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Well, you look at the quality of drivers in front of him, like, Baumanis had an absolutely sublime weekend. I think we can see him in a couple more semi-finals this year. Maybe a final if he has a good run.
I would definitely say. I mean, he's got obviously in the top 6 in qualifying, so he's. I think it's fair to say he's got the potential to anyway. I mean, he's got I think 1 final appearance. I want to say 2 final appearances actually. I remember him getting in basically what was his debut in the Ford Fiesta back in 2015 in Argentina. And then I think he got one last year as well. So yeah, that'd be pretty cool to see him in the final again. Definitely an important weekend I think for them because they had a pretty disappointing Barcelona weekend. Let's talk about Team Peugeot Hansen as well. Sebastian Loeb, of course, had his. I'd say this is his best weekend, arguably in Rallycross. Certainly, I think.
Definitely
in
a
quite
strong
while,
weekend.
Yes, certainly a strong weekend.
I think overall it's probably the strongest overall weekend we've seen from Peugeot Hansen for a while. All 3 cars in the semis and 2 in the final. I think there's been massive strides in that camp. I think they brought new aero parts to this weekend, and it seems to have they fitted them to all 3 cars. Though I believe Hansen's still running a 2016 car underneath. So it's like this weird B-spec kind of thing.
Yeah, there is a bit of confusion in there, I think.
I see it as, well, Kevin Hansen's doing that in a year-old car. What's he going to be like on equal machinery?
I'm also loving that rivalry as well with the 2 Hansens. Even with Loeb as well, I think there's something there as well.
It's a cracking team.
I mean, 18 years old, Kevin Hansen.
Yeah, he out-qualified his brother. And I believe they're only separated by about 2 points in the championship in Timmy's favour. But I don't know. I think the thing is, on any other season, you'd have maybe the strongest driver lineup. But you look at that Solberg VW partnership, and it's like, ugh.
That is the fight for the title, though, isn't it? I think between those 2 teams, because you look at. The focuses, and you kind of got Ken Block there. Obviously, he's good on his day, but I don't think he's going to be.
I don't know.
Helping in charge.
Ken Block, he's gone from being that guy that turns up because he's famous for YouTube stuff to, I mean, Ken Block's regularly knocking on the doors of the semi-finals.
Oh yeah.
You forget when Ken Block a few years ago was absolutely dreadful when he came out for World Rallycross, and he's turned into a good driver, and people love to hate on Ken Block because of who he is. But the fact is, he's still a good driver, and I think he's not going to be on Baccarat's level, but I think if you accept that Ken Block, and I think he's accepted that he is the number 2 in that team, even though it's his team, it's kind of like imagine a better version of somebody like Warren Scott in touring cars. That's how I see Ken Block. Fair
enough, yeah, a very good team owner and driver as well. I mean, he had a lot of success in Global Rallycross as well. So he's not like I said, he's improved a lot I think, and has really kind of grown out of that initial kind of cut out of it people gave.
I mean, let's be real here.
Myself included.
Global Rallycross, though fantastic to watch, is not at the same skill level as World Rallycross, and I think that can be proven because of Sebastian Loeb. Because if you remember, they did a Global Rallycross for the X Games a few years ago. And they got Loeb to come out and do a guest drive, and he won the entire thing in his first try. If you look at Loeb in the world,
multiple races, in that, yeah.
And then if you look at the World Rallycross Championship, it took Loeb a couple of events to adapt.
Yeah, and he's still adapting, I think, and
he's still adapting, but he's still doing a fantastic job.
Agreed. Yes, he's definitely doing a good job, and had a great weekend as well. Definitely, like we said, probably one of his better weekends for sure. And I think what he needs, because if he's going to fight for the title this year, it is particularly important. And I think he's laid down a bit of a marker there. While we're talking about Loeb, we might as well talk about that finish as well. Jumping ahead to the final, we'll cut back in a minute. But of course, Loeb, pressure and Ekstrom came pretty close. Did you think at any point that Loeb could possibly win?
I thought he would launch it up the inside on the last overtaking spot, which is like that back right-handed corner, just before it narrows up into the chicane over the finish. I thought he was going to launch it over the curbs. kind of like we saw in the Super 1600s with finish. I thought he'd go for it, but no. I think ultimately at this stage, you need points to win the title, and after not having the greatest of scores at Barcelona, I think Loeb was content with second.
Yes, definitely, I'd say so. We might as well let's talk about the polos, because we'll kind of wrap up our discussion on the heats and move into the kind of semi-final. We talked a bit about Kristoffersson already, but let's talk about Solberg, because I thought this was definitely a bit more of the old Petter Solberg that we're used to seeing from his back-to-back kind of championship winning days in Rallycross, which obviously sounds like it was years ago, but it was only in 2014 and 15. So let's just read his results: second, first, and second in the heats.
It was a vintage Solberg performance in the qualifiers. I mean, to be honest, it shouldn't have been. It should have really been 45, 45, 45, and 45, but Kristoffersson did a thing.
And Bakker and
he did the Bakker.
He wanted redemption, yes. So that's what he got.
It was vintage Solberg, and I can't say I'm surprised.
Indeed. Let's talk about the semi-finals then. And on the subject of Solberg, he dominated. Well, I won't hesitate to say dominated, but he put in pretty good drive in the semi-final one to win ahead of his teammate Kristoffersson. Split strategies at the start, and Kristoffersson was a little held up. Maybe, he was on the kind of inferior strategy, but they seem pretty much neck and neck all weekend, to be honest. Maybe with Kristoffersson probably has the slight edge, but I think a deserved win for Solberg nonetheless.
It was very good strategy from the Polo team. It was like, okay, we're not going to try and get these floated up. Send, you go now, we'll bring us home 1-2, guarantee a place in the final. Like I think Kristoffersson was about 3 seconds quicker than Rennes Nittish. That's the difference. When the Polo team get it right, they are untouchable. They can't seem to get it right in the final.
No. This seems to be a trait of not only VW, but kind of Solberg himself as well.
To be fair, it wasn't his fault this time.
No, I mean...
to go all weekend dominating and have a puncture in the final.
Gutting, I think, is the...
he's got to wonder what he has to do.
Exactly, yeah.
He's still third in the championship overall. I think he's 2 points behind Kristoffersson, but if you look at the gap to Ekstrom now, you've got to wonder what Solberg's going to be at this point, thinking, what do I have to do to mount a comeback against this guy?
Yeah, I mean, this is not only from these 2 rounds where he's having to fight a comeback, but pretty much from, Latvia last year, where he had that 9-mile weekend. I mean, he won once last year, and that was right at the start of the season at the opening event. So really? This is getting into a bit of a drought, really, in terms of winning. I mean, he's up there at pretty much getting into nearly every final, but he only got that win in Portugal, and even in his second championship winning year, he only won 3 events. So this might be a bit of a... I hesitate to say stumbling block, because obviously Solberg's a very talented driver, and like we said with this one, it's kind of factors sometimes out of his control.
I just don't know. Like, obviously it's not even the case of he's moved to a new team and he's struggling to adapt. It's just Solberg's just been unlucky.
Yeah, because I think he's adapted very well.
What could he have done more this weekend?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, not get a puncture, but how can you avoid that under the circumstances, really? Let's talk about Rennes Nittish, because I thought he had a very, very good weekend, which I think was kind of beautifully contrasted by Tommy Häkkinen, also in that Audi. I think that was quite the difference between those 2 drivers. I mean, I believe the kind of structure is, obviously, Ekstrom is obviously kind of in charge there, obviously lead driver. I think he has major involvement in the team as well. And then Häkkinen, I think, is the second car. And then kind of
Häkkinen's the second nominated
Nitish
driver.
is just kind of Nitish is just
like
kind of
Nitish is like Kevin Hansen.
Yes,
he's part of the team as like the development.
This could earn him a bit more respect, maybe a bit more of a consideration to make him that kind of number 2. Of course, not just on this round, but obviously after a few more performances like this.
Audi would have been kicking themselves they didn't nominate Nitish after that weekend. I mean, so to make it to a final in a third car, and I think it's a similar situation to Kevin Hansen where it's not a fully up to date car either. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think that's the situation. But yeah, he did pretty good. And to be honest, I think he wouldn't have finished 5th in the final anyway, even if Solberg didn't have it. But no, it was a good weekend for Audi in general. I think Häkkinen got a bit unlucky with the tyres going off.
Yeah.
He lost a lot of pace in the second half of that semi-final. It just wasn't enough to keep Loeb and Timmy Hansen. But yeah, I don't know. Häkkinen did the best he could with what was a pretty disappointing weekend. Just scraping through by a point and not making the final.
But obviously benefiting from Baumanis to Baccarin, so I guess him kind of keeping his nose clean, he did pick up an extra couple of points, because he'd have probably been 6th, but actually managed to finish 4th, so I think, like I said, decent job.
Decent job, but you can't help but feel that Audi is probably the best car on the grid at the minute. Oof. And you can't help but feel that Häkkinen should be up there.
I think that would be an interesting debate, kind of in terms of which is the best car on the grid. Because,
well, if you look at the
like you mentioned, it's like the Focus is really good at certain points, and that's unbeatable. And then the Polo's unbeatable, and the Audi's unbeatable, and then the kind of Fiesta is up there as well, and the Peugeot. So it's it's pretty open.
Because if you look at the standings, Häkkinen's level with Ken Block.
So it is, it's kind of, and I just criticised Block for not being the great number 2, but obviously he's on par with
Nitish is ahead. Nitish is a good 7 points ahead of him in the standings, as it is. So you can't help but feel that maybe Audi have made a wrong choice for the constructors.
They can do it. I believe they can do it round by round, though, can't they? So they could nominate Nitish if it's like WRC.
Clarification.
That's what I'm thinking.
I don't think it is.
Is it not? So maybe
I think you have to nominate it for the whole season.
All right, or maybe at least round, a bit in advance anyway. So we'll keep an eye on that one. I mean, Häkkinen, he's probably going to be right back on form in Hockenheim. So let's see. But I think one thing is for sure though, that Nitish is going to be carrying on up there. It's not like this was a blip, not a blip, a kind of anomaly, because he's been up there in the past, and I think it's good to see him in more of a stable seat.
Oh, absolutely. Like, there's no questioning Nitish's talent. It's just been he's never quite had the machinery under him. Now he's got that machinery, he's proven what he can do. It's brilliant to see.
It's a new direction as well, I think, because he was getting a bit kind of bogged down in that Fiesta, I think, kind of, going from round to round, kind of trying to whip up sponsorship, certainly get the results, but I think he seems to have found a new kind of life in this Audi. Yeah,
it's a revitalised Rennis Nitish.
Because I think he was a bit like Kevin Hansen, really, because he was, right up there, kind of 2014, 2015, getting podiums, even won a round, when he was kind of 18, 19, and maybe his star kind of waned a little bit, but yeah, he seems to be kind of coming back around and still only 21, so, I mean, in Rallycross it doesn't seem to matter how old you are anyway, whether it be young or old, really.
I'm surprised at how young some of the drivers are on this grid. Like, even Backer, I don't even think Backer is that old. He's only about 24 at max, I think. But it's it doesn't seem to matter how old you are. Like, case in point, because there's a brilliant. I wanted to bring this up. There is a video on the Rallycross Facebook page, I think, and it is Peter Solberg and Sebastian Loeb watching Oliver Solberg, Peter's 15-year-old son, in his first RX supercar final at 15. I don't even remember what I was doing at 15, but it definitely wasn't power sliding a 600 horsepower supercar and taking third in your first ever final.
Yeah,
like, if you haven't seen, I'll try and find it, and I'll try and find that video. Put a link in the description, because it's something you need to see. Petter's reaction is gold. It's absolute gold, and if you haven't seen it, I implore you to go and watch it, because it's fantastic. You do know the video I'm on about, right?
No. So that's one thing.
I'll introduce you to that video, because it is great to see.
Perfect, yes. Yeah, I think it's great to see. It's weird to see, though, isn't it, with people like Solberg having sons that are only a few years younger than the guys they're racing against. But it's a great spectacle, I think, for WRX, having these guys that have come out of World Rally Championship and gone in. It's not just a home for ex-WRC champions, which I think we've got it's completely far from that. Yeah, like I said, we've got a bit of everything. We've got a future, and we have so many great support categories as well, which I think is really going to make, say, I don't know, 2022 World Rallycross really, really good, and even better than it is now, because by then we'd have had a lot of these guys come up properly, and we'd have had a lot of guys switching over from rally, from Formula 1, from pretty much anywhere, from a lot more from DTM as well, probably, with Ekstrom's great performance, and obviously Scheider as well doing the same.
Can we just talk about one of the support categories for this weekend, because it was spectacular.
Yes, laps
Super
46,
1600s.
Yeah.
For some reason, not the World Feed, Motors TV decided that, the Super 1600 final is on, let's go to an advert break. Bad mistake from whoever was responsible for it, because they missed one of the most spectacular first corner accidents I have seen in Rallycross. I think it's a Finnish driver in one of the little, not Clios, Twingos, which for the record are the most adorable Rallycross cars I've ever seen, because they are so tiny. You'll see Petteri Littmann into the Joker lap, tries to launch it up the inside, clips the back of one of the car, and tears the back wheel off before going spinning into the gravel backwards, to the disgust of the commentary team. It was phenomenal to watch. The crowd were on their feet after that 1600 final for other reasons.
That ending.
Which was... Unfortunately, the stewards did deem it as a problem, and Shigebutinov was penalised for his aggressive driving style.
Well, I was good. Oh yeah, I'd have to see another angle, but I was really good for him.
I thought it was great. The fans loved it.
I thought, so good the raw. Watch. I mean, imagine getting that from a feeder series. One of it's not even the kind of the it's
not even the main show. And I'd argue the Super 1600 final was better than the Supercar final, and that's saying a lot.
For sure. I mean, partly due to some of the driving standards, but it just put on a great spectacle, because these are guys who are just going at it, trying to get the attention of the WORLD RX guys, and putting on a great show at the same time.
Yeah, also shout out to the winner, Ulrich Linnemann, for nearly running himself over in the celebration after standing on the roof. That was a classy.
I was nervous watching that. Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, Super 1600s are always fun to watch. To be honest, you can say the same about most support categories, the RX Lights and touring cars.
Yeah, they do a good job of rotating them, don't they? Really. I like that idea. It's
there's always one support category, one or two, and they're all fantastic to watch.
Indeed.
And I don't think they get enough love.
No, not from Motorsport TV. Not from Motorsport TV, unfortunately. But,
though I will admit, after watching that, I know he got penalised for it. Shigabutinov's my new hero.
Best name, best final corner, last lap move.
He reminds me of like mid 2000s era Takuma Sato, just really aggressive, and I like that in a driver.
Indeed, and he seems to have the pace as well. Not that Celtic didn't, but he seems to have front-running pace as well, and championship potential for sure.
I think it was 5th qualifier in the Super 1600s, and just scraped through on his heat in his semi-final. But I think he's a good driver, and I think it was a bit harsh to lose second in the final. But ultimately, that's why I'm not a steward, because I would prioritise the fact that it was, to coin a phrase, totally sweet to watch.
Yes, I'm not sure the other driver would agree there, but
no, Linnemann still won, so
exactly. So
didn't affect it much. But
no.
was going to say, I can't wait for the Super 1600 to be back. I don't know when they're next on the calendar, but
Belgium. So not very long to wait at all.
I know, but
because that is only 3 weeks away.
Only
2 weeks
3
away.
weeks away.
I don't know. It's basically the week after.
It's after
Hockenheim.
Hockenheim.
Yes. So 13th to the 14th of May. Tune in for the Rallycross at Belgium, but don't forget there's also a fantastic sports series going on, and the debut of RX2 as well. So that's going to be a fantastic spectator weekend for sure. You're getting 3 top class events, and maybe even the touring cars are there. Yes, they are indeed. I mean, I promised it now, so I hope I'm right. But according to Wikipedia, they are also there. So that's
ever a reliable source.
Exactly. So apologies to anyone if I've just false advertised there. But yes, that's fantastic. Now
Get to Belgium while you still can.
Exactly. Great track as well in Belgium. So I'm doubly now looking forward to that round. And
before Belgium, we have my favourite event on the calendar, RX Hockenheim.
Take us through it, Jake. Come on, why do you love Hockenheim so much, and what do you expect to see?
Right, I think here's another video that's going in the description. You may have seen this floating around last year, and it's what I call the greatest race of all time, which was semi-final 2, I think, of the event last year, or it might have been the year before. It's one of the events, and it was madness. There was contact. It
was
turn
Rallycross.
1. It was Rallycross at its finest. Ironically, I think it was Petter Solberg that hit Kristoffersen, which did something to one of Kristoffersen's tyres, which meant he was essentially holding on with 3 wheels. I think we had Ken Block was in it, Timoš Janov was in it, who got dumped out. Liam Doran as well. Back before that whole
of course
scandal in the middle of the season.
He had a good weekend
Mini.
then, yes.
Yeah, made it to the final. Solberg round the outside. I think at one point there were 4 cars wide into a hairpin.
Well, Liam Doran won the semi-final, so...
Oh yeah, he did.
So
that's how mad it was.
In a Mini. Yeah.
In a 1.6 Mini.
This is coming back to me now. That was brilliant.
It was such a good semi-final to watch. The crowd were on their feet. Because I think it was literally about half an hour after the track had been like green for DTM, and switched it to a rallycross of a track, and they had one really okay semi-final, and then perhaps the best semi-final you'll ever see. And I'm just hoping more of the same. Like, I know there are some people in the RX community that don't like the fact that there's a couple of converted F1 tracks, but I think Barcelona's proved it was brilliant, and Hockenheim has always been brilliant, and I'm hoping for more of the same.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as long as it's a good track, then I have no problem with it. And it's the only one anyway, apart from Barcelona. Looking through now, I'm just going to check that. Yes, it is. It's the only kind of converted race Formula 1 track, so it's fun.
As long as it produces good racing, which I think it will. It's still sharing with the DTM this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm gonna put my prediction for Ekstrom. He's gonna win again.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put the curse on him now by predicting that. And get
you've predicted him, so it's alright.
Yes,
so.
Exactly. Oh yeah, true.
I wonder if it's going to be Ekstrom and Scheider that are doing 4 races in that weekend. I think if they are still part of the DTM calendar. Because I know Ekstrom did it last year, where he finished the DTM race and got changed into his rallycross gear, and then went and did the rallycross final.
It's fair to say he did pretty well as well in both. Wasn't like his focus slipped. But yeah, I mean, obviously Ekstrom amazingly is still in DTM. Scheider's fully focusing on rallycross, so he'll just be focusing on that. Probably say hi to his old teammates and crew and that. But yeah, he's focusing on rallycross. But yeah, Ekstrom is doing it again this year. Yeah, he's kind of dropped by
follow
BMW,
DTM, so.
No, I mean they had that big shake-up. They had a big shake-up, but yeah, Scheider's I think made the right choice there. I think we're rallycross. Can't go far wrong.
I'm going to pick a wild card for my win this weekend. Well, next weekend. I'm going for Timmy Hansen.
Timmy Hansen.
Very out of left field pick, but I reckon he could do it. Not the handsome brother that I would usually pick, but
I've got cold feet. I'm going with Kristofferson now.
ooh.
Maybe I've just cursed him again, but I'm feeling it. I'm just gonna predict him every time until he wins now.
Well, yeah. Well, I've predicted Timmy Hansen, so I'm looking forward to him finishing 19th in the heats.
Yes, I will. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I will.
I think that Peugeot Hansen outfit's overdue a win.
Indeed, but I don't think it's going to come from Hansen, in my opinion. I think Loeb will win before Hansen, but that's not to say Loeb is a better driver. I just think it might be how it falls, because we've seen that Loeb's come in, everyone thought he'd dominate, but of course both the Hansens now are really level and ahead at certain events.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
Insane.
It's gonna be action packed. It's gonna be sideways. Again, if you don't watch Rallycross, fix that. Go watch it. Find some way to watch it.
It's it's live streamed on YouTube. It's obviously on Motorsport TV. I say kind of apprehensively if you don't have any other way to watch it. And then it's also uploaded on their YouTube account as well straight afterwards. So there's no excuse.
You got no excuse. Watch it or we'll hunt you down.
Yes, basically, and another big grid as well for.
How many do we have? Do we know?
For Germany. I do not know, but I know that everyone is returning.
Yeah, well,
apart from
we have all the main series guys coming.
Yes, apart from De Mouster, I'm going to pronounce it.
Right. Also, I want to throw this open. Right. I hope people watch this in the comments or whatever. Why does he have -10 points?
According to Wikipedia, he has 10 championship points deducted for sealing an additional turbo after scrutineering.
Actually, come to think of it, so does Timmy Hansen.
Indeed, according to Wikipedia. Timmy Hansen, wait.
Yeah. On the actual.
He's on 23, isn't he? Because he's on 23. Yeah. But he's due more points.
Why are we massively out of touch with penalties? You'd think something like that would be sort of publicised.
Yeah, like him complaining about it. I would if I was him. But yeah, wow. So that's kind of hurt his championship charge because he'd have been right up there. That's why he's not up there. That's why someone like Scheider's up there after having a bad
weekend.
On it. Well,
not here, but like I'm struggling to remember. There we go, Barcelona. I've just had a complete. It's not like we've been talking about Barcelona at all.
Oops. I'd also believe
we found it. 22 drivers. We got another 22 guy grid.
Nice.
Yeah.
Including Choo Choo as well. He'll be back in his Kia Rio. We'll be joined by an Italian very, very soon, hopefully. Sadly not for Germany. But hopefully soon, because, two Kia Rios. What more do you want?
G.
I was avoiding mentioning his name before the cries from Jake, but unfortunately couldn't prevent it. But yeah, very, very much looking forward to seeing two Kia Rios, because I think guys like Choo Choo do kind of make Rallycross what it is, because it wouldn't be anything without them. If we just had 16 cars,
look, I've just spotted a name on that Hockenheim sheet. He's back, Robin Larson. Yes,
about time.
Robin Larson in the private A1.
Private A1, right.
I missed Robin Larson this season because he was the de facto privateer, just sticking it with the big boys.
Exactly. I believe.
Yes.
If you give me a second. Yes, Robin Larson did get to the final last year.
Yeah, Munich is better. I think he rolled it.
Yes, because
I'm 90% sure he rolled it.
He finished 35 seconds behind, so maybe that did include a roll.
I'm sure he rolled it after contact with Liam Doran.
Yes, because that is completely right. I'm sure, because Doran also finished 10 seconds back, so that sounds right to me. Yeah.
We got René Gulan Zichet, who's going to be entering the Megane next year. He's in Barcelona, and he's going to be doing this in the Clio.
Oh yes, I forgot about that. That's a good project.
We got Munich
to keep an eye on.
Martin Kasmarski. I hope I completely butchered the pronunciation of that.
His 2017 debut, I believe.
I don't know. No, I don't think it was. I think he was at this weekend. Yeah, he was. He was in. Kasmarski was in this weekend. He was 19th. Beat Susu.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Speaking of, it's probably just something to round it out. Speaking of privateers that made the show, can we talk about Joaquim Santos?
Of course, we can wrap this episode up with a dialogue from Jake about everyone's favourite.
Sometimes you get drivers who... Right, rallycross is not an easy sport. I've experienced that on dirt rally. I can't do it.
Very realistic.
Sometimes, we both love having some of the local drivers that maybe haven't got the funding to do a full season, but kind of mixing it with the big boys, and some of them do quite well.
Yes, yeah.
Like, you get some of the local drivers that will come in, and even, like, guest one-off. Like, we usually have, like, Andrew Jordan at Linden Hill as, like, a guest driver, and he usually does okay. Santos had a troubled weekend. He spent most of the time backwards in the gravel trap, was 8 qualifying points below de Moustier, and nearly caused several accidents spinning. But he's like the Vadim Kogai of Rallycross, but he is now a new cult hero. So I doubt he's listening, but Joaquim, we love you and salute you. Please, can you come and do more? Because it was great. It's great to see your local privateers in the event, and even if they're not remembered for the right reasons, like, bring him back. Get him next year.
Well, that's a message from Jake Khan. It's been a pleasure to do this podcast, of course, second round of what hopefully will be, well, I think what we know will be a fantastic season. Certainly started in a very, very strong way, so we look forward to meeting again after Germany, of course, to discuss all the events from Hockenheim. You'll be able to see that on the channel, hopefully on the Monday or Tuesday after the event. We'll try and get out a bit quicker next time. But, you know, various issues. Yes, exactly. I mean, I'm away that weekend as well, so there'll probably be issues on my end that time. But yeah, that's pretty much, I think, all to say, Jake. So unless you have anything else to say, it's goodbye from me.